Hey everybody, Lee here. I've got something rad for you guys today. We are going to build mounts to install this radiator on the third wave Roadster. Okay, so this is like basically what they call a Mustang radiator when people refer to using a Mustang rad on a hot rod. The reason it's a Mustang radiator is it's from it's not just Mustang, they use these in basically all of Ford's little cars from 1960 to 66, I believe, in like Falcons, Rancheros, Comets, Mustangs, the little tiny cars. This one specifically is like 63 and up, because in 62, Falcons and Comets and stuff, they only had 6 cylinders. They didn't have V8s. So this is a V8 rad. This is actually out of my friend Rick Trenton's 64 Ranchero. He built a beautiful 64 Ranchero a few years ago, had it on the road for like 3 weeks, and actually got in a wreck with it and rolled it, wrote the car off, absolutely destroyed it. It was a shame. But this radiator was only like a few months old when that happened. So it's been laying around his place. It's got some laying around carnage on it. It's definitely not mint or appears brand new, but you know what? I got this. See these little beauty rings here? I traded him a pair of those for this radiator. So, I mean, this is essentially like a $30 radiator. The reason these are really popular with hot rods is they're more than efficient to cool a small block like this. They've got the hose outlets in happy spots. Lower rad hose like that, upper rad hose like that. Works really nice. And the other thing that's cool about them is they fit with a grill shell. I've never personally mounted it with a 32 grill, but I have used these with Model A grills before. But I don't see why it wouldn't work with a 32 grill, because 32 grills I think are a little bit bigger than a Model A grill. But yeah, it will basically slide up in there kind of like that. So that's what we're going to work on today. We're just going to build some simple mounts using some 1x1 square tubing and some little tabs. So these little holes right here, that is where the original Model A radiator would have bolted up. We're going to use that kind of as our guideline to where we're going to mount this radiator. And the reason we want to keep that as a guideline is that is right in line with the axle. And what happens if you don't keep your radiator in line with the axle, and some people to get some clearance, in fact, I even did this on my Roadster, they'll move the radiator ahead a little bit. You can go a little bit and that's fine. Some people get too far ahead, and if the radiator starts to get too far ahead of the tires, it starts to look weird. So we're going to try to keep this in line with that as much as possible. As far as going back towards the radiator, basically I always set them up with enough room in here that you can comfortably change the fan belt if you have to. Maybe even as a bonus, if you can get the fan, unbolt the fan on and off without having to pull the radiator, you know, that's kind of what we want. That's all we need. This one, we do have, when I first mocked it up on here, we do have a little bit of clearance issues with this fan blade hitting the lower rad hose here. There's 2 ways we can do that or address that. Originally, I was just going to trim maybe 1 inch or 3/4 of an inch off the fan blade here. But then I was thinking about it, and if I unbolt the engine and transmission and put like a 1/2 inch or a 3/4 inch or even a 1 inch spacer, there's no reason we can't lift this engine up a little bit. It does sit a little bit lower than I originally hoped it would sit. But if we raise the engine up a little bit, that will totally take care of that problem. So I'm probably going to do that in the future. That way I don't have to trim this fan down any smaller. This fan is actually off of a 170 inline 6, which is kind of like the fan that would have worked with this radiator in the 6-cylinder, like Comets and Falcons and Rancheros and stuff. So not that that matters for anything. I just thought it was kind of a neat coincidence. So anyways, we're going to use these little tabs here and build some brackets coming up to here. I just took some 1x1 square tubing and cut it to fit. Basically, I went about a ½ an inch above the center of this hole here. So those will slide in like that. I marked them so I know to drill a hole there and a hole there. Notice they're a little bit off center. That's fine. That's just the way it happens to lay out on here. The top hole I stopped here. The reason I didn't go up to there when I was mocking this up on the grill shell, the grill shell, as you know, is round and tapered, and the taper starts to get a little tight in here. So we're probably going to have to trim this top edge down a bit. So I'm going to mount the bottom, or mount the top of the mount using the bottom hole, if that makes sense. And the reason for that is so that we've got this much material that we can shave out of here to get the grill to sit lower. Pretty simple. So I'm going to drill these holes out now. I'll do a mirror image on this side so that those guys will sit in there. And basically we just got to build a little bracket to the bottom there. Okay, I just bolted these guys on after drilling the holes out like you just watched. And now we've got it kind of sitting about where it needs to sit. I just dropped these little 5/16 bolts in the hole to make sure that it was going to work out. Next step now, we're going to build, I'll make a little cardboard template of the bottom of this with this hole in it. Basically like a little, I guess a rectangle that it'll bolt through. Then we'll weld that on, and it should be it for this. I've got it mocked up right now, obviously, and it's just sitting flat on here, which we don't want. You don't want it to sit flat. But when we cut our little tabs out and weld them to this, it's going to lift this up, the thickness of that tab. So it should all work out. Another thing I want to point out, I had somebody in the last video mention that the axle is going to hit the spring mount here. So I just wanted to point out, this is not in where it's supposed to go. In fact, I'm not even going to use that chrome one on this car because it's going to be completely hidden, and I'd rather save the chrome one for like a car with a suicide front end where it will be seen. So don't worry about that. It's literally the only reason it's sitting there is because it was on the table and was in the way. So I just put it there so that it doesn't get lost essentially. All right, I just cut these out of a piece of scrap metal that I had. Just this little, oh, this one's a little tight. Oh, there we go. Just a cut off from, I had to make these big circle pieces for a guy, and that was the inserts out of them. So these are our new pieces, I think. They should work if my measurements were okay. All right, I've got this mocked up. Miraculously, this thing is balancing here right now. I got the angle finder sitting on here, set so that right now it's 90 degrees from the top of the frame rail, and I guess through magic, the weight of the angle finder balances it perfect. So before this falls and breaks everything, I am going to tack it and I'll tack one spot, get it where it needs to be, tack the other spot, and when everything's sitting right, then I'll go around and weld it. That last clip you saw, these bolts are really tight up against there. I'm going to weld the bolts to this. Part of that reason, I don't know how many of you guys have ever actually had to put a nut and bolt together and get your fingers up through there, but to do that job by yourself is very hard. So, like when the car's all together. So I'm going to weld the bolt to there, essentially making a stud so that in the future, when I go to take this rad on and off, I can just worry about the nut underneath and not have to worry about holding a wrench on there, because it's very awkward. So let's tack this before this tower or house of cards or whatever you want to call it decides to fall down. Like that. All right, you just watched me weld that up. I don't know if you noticed, but I made it a little bit bigger than the square tubing so that I could get a bead nice all the way around. I just jacked the car up to let the spring hang. So now I should be able to get my fingers up inside of here and bolt, get a, oh, I don't know, this might be hard. Because we have to get a washer and a nut. I've already abandoned the lock washer idea. This is stupid. You know what I should have done? Is had the stud go the other way so that I could get my, basically have the stud come up from the bottom. Ah, that's really hot still. And then just put the nut on top. I think I might actually have to drop the spring right out of here so I can get my hand up inside of there a little better. Okay, with the spring dropped out of there, I was able to, it was still frustrating, but I was able to get it, the nuts on there. So we're just snugging them up now. Yeah. Cool. Radiator, radiating. All right, let's put it back down now. Grab some jack stands out of the way. Whoa, I don't know what that noise was, but I'm sure it was fine. Okay, there we go. Radiator is mounted. I'm happy with that. The rad hose should, I mean, it shakes a little bit, but I think with the rad hose on there will help. And also when we're gonna mount the grill, from the factory, there was support rods that went from here to the radiator. This rad obviously doesn't have them, but we can probably build something to the grill to go from a support from here to here, just to kind of stop it from doing that. I just threw the grill shell on to see what it'll look like. I think I'm going to mount that next. As you can see, it is way too high because Model A's are considerably smaller than 32s, and also with this one being channeled 3 inches, that just makes the body sit 3 inches further lower already. So what we're going to do now is cut the bottom of this, maybe about there. We'll have to measure it and find out. But by cutting that off, we'll allow this whole grill shell to drop down lower. I was messing around with it earlier, just before I filmed this, and it won't go as low as I wanted to. I think this Mustang Rad might be just a smidgen too tall for a 3-inch channel. But I mean, it's really close. It's close enough that if I don't put a hood top on this, I think it will be okay. I put a straight edge across it with the angle finder on there, and it does slope like from the cowl to the grill when the grill's at the, sitting at the correct height. It does slope downhill. It just doesn't slope as downhill as an original Model A would, but it'll be fine. Nobody will know. I mean, you guys will know because I told you, but nobody else will know. It'll be okay. So let's cut the bottom of this grill off and get it kind of mounted on there. The grill is dropped down about as low as it can go because it's going to touch the top here, so we can't go any lower, and you still got to get your hand in here to get the rad cap on and off, which is probably not going to be fun. But I mean, that's one of the things when you use a $30 rad, as opposed to if I called like Don at Don's Radiators up and got him to build me one, that would probably be like $800 to $1,000. So that's the price you pay for a cheaper radiator. Okay, I'm going to mark the bottom here on both sides. Then we can take it off and put it on the bench, square it up, and make our cut. I don't know, we might trim a little bit, try it, trim a little bit, try it. I don't know. We're going to wing it. So assuming that this is somewhat square, it should be square. I'm going to line this up with the mark that I made, which is about there. And that's where we'll cut. Hopefully it's the same on the other side. I should measure how far up that is. You think we can eyeball it? No, we better not eyeball it. We'll do the other side and then figure that part out. I like that my mark that I made is in the same spot on both sides, based on this little hole here, this mounting hole. Okay, I think we'll figure that part out. Let me just double check here. That is 4 5/8. This is not even close to 4 5/8. All right, let's, which is weird because they're both, maybe those holes aren't in the right spot. I don't know. I'll figure that part out. I trimmed these little corner pieces down. We got this all squared up. I don't know where my measurement got weird, but it got weird, so we fixed that up. Now we should drop her on, and it should sit right about there, I think. That looks, oh, what's going on here? Yeah, that looks pretty good. Right about there. I'll get out of the way so you can see. Kind of like that. Obviously, we'll have to square it up a bit and build some little tabs to hold it on, but that gives you the gist of it right there. It doesn't look, I was afraid it was going to look too low, and I was talking earlier with Shannon about like maybe sectioning 4 inches out of here, but I think it'll be okay. Once you get, like, there's going to be a headlight bar going across here and some headlights. Once you get some more stuff going on there, I don't think you'll, like, it'll kind of take away from how long it is. I don't know. We'll try it. I mean, if it looks weird, we can always section it later. We'll try it like this for a bit and see. I think for the back side, I'm just going to build some little tabs that come off this way. So attach to that bolt hole. Same thing down here, a little tab that comes out to here. Drill a hole and put a bolt in there. I think I'll save that for another day though, because it's almost the end of the day and I'm getting exhausted. So we'll pause right here. We're at a good spot and continue on another video. I want to thank everybody for watching. It's very much appreciated. If you want to support the channel, please go check out lgspeedcustom.com. Get yourself a shirt, or we got other hot rod parts on there, as I'm sure you know. Thanks again to the Cavalieros. The Cavalieros, all the music that's in all my videos is done by a local surf band, the Cavalieros. So go check them out at thecavalieros.com. Get yourself a shirt from them, maybe get a CD, support those guys because they support this channel. So, what else? I think that's basically it. Thanks again for watching, and we'll check you on the next video.